Oh, hey! I'm glad you're here. This is the final episode of Season 3. This marks 24 guests, all with different professions and life experiences that have watched a film and then sat down and shared their stories. And I'd like to say a sincere thank you, both to them for sharing and to you for listening. Have you had a favorite moment? Maybe a quote? Please reach out and let me know. Whether it's the raccoon story from Of Unknown Origin with an exterminator, all dogs go to heaven moment from Vibes with a psychic medium, or any sex positive moment in Girl 6 with a phone sex operator, or dancing at the Blue Iguana with a sex worker. You can find me on Instagram at VH_US, that's VHUS with a period in the middle, or on Twitter at VHS_podcast. I would love to hear from you. This project means a lot to me and continues to be a very fun chapter in my life. Which brings me to today's topic. Hopefully, we all have many chapters in our lives. For instance, I have been in 3 different improv groups. I was half of a DJ duo called DJ Sharon Needles in the early 90s, early 2000s. I did social work for a decade. I worked on a few indie record stores, just to name a few. But obviously, the chapter that left the deepest marks was being a kid growing up in a video store. I am so lucky to have had that opportunity, and it affects me daily. For instance, Joe Bigos, I think is his name, just directed a film called VFW. At the time of this recording, it's just now streaming. From the moment the fuzzy red credits begin, and we start getting introduction shots to what this world's going to be, I felt like I was wrapped in blankets of cozy VHS vibes. Everything about the film, down to the crazy gore and the superb acting, is stupendous. The cast is fantastic. I mean, you got William Sadler, Stephen Lang, Fred Williamson, Martin Kove, Sweep the Leg, George Wendt. Yeah, George Wendt, like from Cheers. He's in this movie. It's the type of film I would have talked about and, just randomly picked up off the shelf, took to my room, watched it, and then hunted down everything these actors did, which is great. It's a great way to educate yourself. Going back through catalogs. So like Fred Williamson's, for instance, Williamson, I would see everything right down to finding Warriors of the Wasteland, aka The New Barbarians, which if you've never seen someone wear van windows that are bulletproof as a shirt, that would be the film. So go find that if that's your thing. Wait, how did I get there? What did we... Oh, yes. Chapters that left indelible marks. So today's guest is a very talented individual who has had numerous chapters. One in particular is a real doozy, and we get to that in this episode. So I'm proud to close the 3rd chapter of VHS Podcast with a film freaked, a guest who was a young actor, and this is, of course, VHUs. Hello, and welcome to VHUs, the program where each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession portrayed in the film. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and you can find bonus materials, including original artwork, at the website vh-us.com. We are VH_US on Instagram and VHS_podcast on Twitter. Should you wish to support the program, head on over Patreon/VHUS. I am joined in the studio today by Andy Lindberg, who is host of the Kick-Ass Oregon History Podcast and a benefit auctioneer with Artisan Auctions. Thank you for being here.
I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. People can find out more about you on the website orhistory.com and artisanauctions.com. People can also follow your dog, which is at TurtleBatPig on Instagram.
Yes.
And your dog has over 20,000 followers.
Yes, I have recently adopted a 5.5-year-old French bulldog named Ludwig von Schnorfelhausen.
Of course.
And Lou came with over 20,000 Instagram followers.
What?
His former owner was in marketing in New York, and in 2014, when she got him, she used him as a way to learn how to build an Instagram following.
Wow.
And so I've been given the keys to the car. And I'm trying very hard to I don't care if I build his audience. I just don't want to destroy his audience.
You want to maintain his legend.
Yes, exactly. And it's very interesting because there are a number of folks who are avid fans
Wow.
of his and will comment on things. And I did a post that said, there's a different wizard behind the curtain now.
Right.
Um, and, a number of folks were like, well, we'll see.
I love it.
Just then fine, just look at the pictures and
Yeah.
don't read the snappy.
It's a dog.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
He's not typing it.
he is a little goblin.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
he is mostly not a dog.
Right.
And he's very photogenic
Mhm.
as far as like terrifying.
Sure.
What terrible evolutionary accidents have been involved in creating this
Yes.
thing?
It's very interesting. I did look at numerous pictures in research.
Yes,
I was
of course,
researching for science.
adorable research.
Yes. So Turtle Bat Pig.
Yep.
There you go. Everyone should check that out. But that's not why we're brought together. I am joined today by Andy because we're brought together by the film Freaked. Was this a first-time watch for you?
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
That's great. At the time of this recording, unfortunately, Freaked is not streaming anywhere. You can find DVDs and Blu-rays from $35 to $140 on Amazon, and you can rent it, of course, at Movie Madness. And as always, I encourage you to search out local video stores and support them. The synopsis of Freaked is a vain actor, his best friend, and an activist end up at a mutant freak farm run by a weirdo scientist.
There is a lot to unpack in this
Yes,
movie.
so much. This is a film that when I discovered it, I think it was around when it came out, 93, 94, I thought it was the best thing ever. I showed it to numerous disappointed people and a couple that really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in a video store, I even have the poster over there. Alex Winter was only in a few films, but ever present for my age group. So
Fascinating.
yeah, so he's just one of those actors that, like, I mean, Bill and Ted was huge.
Yes.
Kept seeing him then when I was a little older in Lost Boys. I was like, oh, there he is again. And so in just a couple roles, you can, have a huge impact in someone's life. So I greatly appreciate Alex Winter. But first, let's put the film in context. The director, Alex Winter and Tom Stern, they share the dual role. Alex Winter was an actor, but as a director, he did a couple shorts, a couple music videos for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Extreme. Yeah. Didn't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
well. The plot thickens.
Yes. Idiot Box was a TV series in 1990, which directly led to Freaked in 93. He did the Bomb the Bass Bug Powder Dust music video in 94, a couple of Helmet music videos, and now he's doing a slew of documentaries. So I recommend anyone go to IMDb, look up Alex Winter. All the documentaries are very fascinating, the topics he's choosing. And of course, we now have Bill and Ted Face the Music coming out this year, so the third Bill and Ted movie. Tom Stern began an 8-year collaboration with Alex in the beginning. He did the Dope Hat music video for Marilyn Manson, Cherub video for Butthole Surfers, a ton of TV, including The Man Show, Crank Yankers, Andy Milonakis, Toys That Made Us documentary, and in 2019, the Kevin Hart Black History stand-up. Still going strong. Editor, we got Malcolm Campbell. Did American Werewolf in London in 1981.
All right.
Yeah.
There's a pedigree.
Yeah. Trading Places in 83. Michael Jackson Thriller in 83. Yeah, same editor.
Wow.
Spies Like Us.
So working with who's the director?
John Landon.
With John Landis.
Yeah, John Landis, sorry. John Landis, amazing. Spies Like Us in 85. Three Amigos in 86.
Heavens.
Coming to America in 88. Wayne's World in 92. Freaked in 93. Hot Shots Part 2 in 93. And keeps on going.
Wow, kind of going downhill in the 90s.
I mean, the 90s were kind of, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Actor Alex Winter started Death Wish 3 in 85. Lost Boys in 87. Bill and Ted's in 89. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Just a couple years. Rosalie Goes Shopping in 89. Bill and Ted Bogus Journey in 91. Freaked in 93. Did a ton of voice work. Still directing. Pretty amazing. Next, we have Michael Stroyanov, whose name I did not know. Face I did. He did a ton of awesome television, including Blossom from 90 to 95. He plays Ernie in the film. Mom and Dad Save the World in 92, Freaked in 93, continuing to work. He's in Dark Knight and a ton of TV shows, including Billions. Yeah. I mean, he looks completely different now.
Yes,
But,
yes.
then we have last Megan Ward. She was in Trancers 2 in 91, Encino Man in 92, Amityville 92, Trancers 3 in 93, Freaked 93, a ton of TV, including Party of Five, Melrose Place, Four Corners, Boomtown, CIS, General Hospital, and she's still going strong on the television front.
Good for her. I
Yeah.
mean, for someone whose name I don't know,
Yeah.
whose face I don't know,
Yep.
it's always I just am always so pleased when I'm like, okay, you are a working actor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Work.
Yeah, it's something I come across numerous times as people are like, I don't know that person. And then you can list off all these credits, and
Yep.
it's like, sometimes it's 30 years into a career, and it's like a guy in closet or a man at phone booth. But they've been doing it for so long,
Yeah.
and such a grueling job. I mean, the amount of rejection and just,
Oh yeah.
I mean, how you maintain mental health. I mean, maybe we'll get to that, but
Mhm.
it's pretty admirable. The supporting cast equally insane in this film.
Yes. Oh my God.
Everyone that turns up, you're just like, what?
Hold on. Yes, it's
How?
like, okay, this is where you start.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The film kicks off with an insane credit sequence set to Freaked by Henry Rollins, and the band Blind Idiot God really kind of sets the pace for the tone of the film, shall we say.
Well, the opening credits are they are like seizure-inducing
Yes.
visuals.
Yeah, not subtle at all.
Nope.
Nor is the film. So we
Yeah.
very much get transported into this world.
We repeat, the flying gimp has been destroyed. You may return to your homes.
The warning about the flying gimp being destroyed is an allusion to Idiot Box, which was the TV series that Tom Stern and Alex Winter did. There was a character where Alex Winter had his shirt pulled over the back of his head, and it was a very bad effect, purposefully, of him flying through the air and sort of making fun of, I think, like Leave It to Beaver type era stuff.
See, I've never seen Idiot Box. That reference just totally
Yeah,
was
it's-
wasted on me.
It's a crazy. I mean, it's definitely putting your film in a time capsule for a very niche audience.
Yes.
I love that they were making something that was like, $11 million or something, and started it off with a joke that even like 10 people are going to get.
Yeah.
Like, I loved Idiot Box and rewatched it, the episodes that are on YouTube. It's difficult. The pacing's crazy, but it's so creative and wild, and I just love celebrating the big swings, even if they're not gonna maybe age well over the years, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of film and things where it's repetitive and safe, and there's not like a
Yeah.
fresh idea. So even the strange ones, I'm like, I like that you went for it. I celebrate that.
After your horrific ordeal, the very mention of your name makes children scream in terror.
Next, we're on a talk show hosted by Sky Daily, Brooke Shields. There we go.
Yep.
With
the
guest
hits keep coming.
Yes, Ricky Coogan is the guest, played by Alex Winter. He's sitting in the shadows and
Yes.
is referencing his childhood acting roles, which is a great opportunity to mention that you are here because you, as an actor, had a role that's very memorable in your youth.
Yes.
For anyone that's listening that does not know, you were in the film Stand By Me in 1986.
Yeah.
A massively adored film that just doesn't age. There's some films that have a pedigree. Maybe it's because it's seated in like the 50s, but the aesthetic of it looks as good today as it did then. And it was a film that is massively respected, and many would love a chance to be in a film like that's
Yeah.
remembered in such a way that's such an incredible pedigree. I was probably 9 or 10 when I saw it, and there was 2 moments in that film that stood out to me, because some of it is darker subject matter
Yep.
with the dead kid and stuff, but the leech in the shorts and your role. So your character's name was
David Lardass Hogan.
right, and you are in the famous pie scene.
To his fifth pie, Lardass began to imagine that he wasn't eating pies. He pretended he was eating cow flops and rat guts and blueberry sauce. Slowly, a sound started to build in Lardass' stomach. A strange and scary sound, like a log truck coming at you at 100 miles an hour. Suddenly, Lardass opened his mouth. And before Bill Travis knew it, he was covered with 5 pies worth of used blueberries.
How did that come about? Was it an open casting? Were you acting at the time? How did it?
Well, there are 2 versions of this story. I'll tell you the one that I've told for all these years, and then I'll give you the update.
Okay, great.
I was taking theater classes in Portland, Oregon, where I lived and grew up, and my theater teacher, a woman named Beth Harper, who I'm still in contact with, and actually will be teaching an acting class for the Portland Actors Conservatory that she leads.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I've recently been reconnected with her. She had been contacted by her agent, who was looking for kids to cast in this unnamed Stephen King movie.
Sure.
And so myself and a couple of guys, I think.
How old were you?
I was 14.
Okay.
They were maybe 15. Went in and just were put on videotape. We put on, Levi's, Converse, and white T-shirts because we knew that it was going to be set in the 50s.
Sure.
We knew that much. And the way that I've always told it was I was the right fat kid in the right place at the right time.
Well, that's pretty much all of Hollywood.
Yes, yes.
You fit the part and you got it.
Well, and the interesting thing, it's curious you put it that way, because subsequently, so for years and years and years, I've kind of told this story like, well,
Sure.
I just happened to wander in and I was fat enough, and so they were like, well, okay, good, we've got this guy. Apparently, they had been trying and trying and trying down in Los Angeles to cast this role. Wow. And just couldn't find anybody who
fit the look,
who could do it.
Yeah.
And it, I imagine that there were overweight children in LA, but that they just didn't have whatever it was that I had.
Yeah.
Which, whether that's the ability to act or, to overact or be funny or whatever. And that the fact that I came along apparently solved this huge casting problem for them.
That's amazing.
And so, I went, my final audition was down in Eugene. They had rented out during the casting and during the filming the Eugene Hilton for the most part.
I've stayed there. Lovely.
Yeah, it's great. And I went down and read for Rob Reiner and
Wow.
Andrew Scheinman and the other writers and producers. And I was like frighteningly calm about all of this, that there just was...
I mean, you're face to face with Rob Reiner.
Yeah.
That's so
and there was
crazy.
just some sort of inevitability.
Yeah.
It just felt like, you know what? This is going to happen.
When you were reading, are you reading the part where you're like not well?
Well,
or...
I actually read, there's a speech that Vern gives in the junkyard where they're flipping coins and they like come up and he
Gotcha.
says, that's a goocher.
Yeah.
I read that little
Okay.
piece from the script. And my mother tells the story of, she answered the phone when they called to offer me the role, and, they put me on the phone, and I probably, I just was so cool and calm about it. It's
Wow.
like, yes, of course. And my mother, got back on the phone with whomever it was, and they were like, he seems really nonchalant about this. Because to me, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
it just seemed like, well, of course, the first movie that I ever auditioned for
This is how it works.
about a fat kid that throws up is the one that I'm
Right.
going to get.
I've been training my whole life for this.
Yes. I'm a kid. I'm fat. I have experience throwing up. I think I've got this.
Right. Perfect. Wow.
There's a double edge to this. I'm famous for being fat.
Yeah.
And so, there have been a few occasions where someone will be talking to me about this and they'll get kind of mean about it.
Yeah.
And, my response is, something along the lines of, well, what beloved American film have you been in?
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. And it's really fascinating. When I was thinking about talking about this movie, I was like, who could I have? And this isn't a program where I'm like seeking out famous people. So I want to be very selective about the people that I want to speak to. So when a mutual friend said that she knew you, I was like, oh, that's perfect. And then I went to your IMDb to make sure you didn't have like 3,000
yes,
credits.
that I wasn't in General Hospital all the time.
Right. Well,
yeah.
just because I think it's a very interesting story that you have, and it's very unique, and the perspective that you have to share with people, I think, is something that most people don't think about.
Well, thank you.
The world is waiting to hear your story.
Well, it's kind of long, but okay. It all started when I was approached to be spokesman for a multinational corporation called EES.
Oh, the Everything Except Shoes people.
In the film, Ricky sends us back in a flashback, which brings us into the boardroom of EES, which is everything except shoes.
What?
Yes.
Is that a joke that I just missed?
I think what they're saying is that there's companies so big that they do everything but one thing.
Yeah.
And for some reason...
And shoes,
shoes.
Yes, they decided that shoes was the funniest.
Yes.
You are the only one who can stand up to these radicals who are trying to keep Zygrot 24 from the struggling farmers whose very future depends on it.
So we see William Sadler, who played Death in Bill and Ted 2.
Yes.
He's reprising his role in Bill and Ted 3, which I think he's bringing a son into it, so Death's son will be in Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Well, and he works. He's another one of those character actors. He works all the time.
Yeah, Demon Knight's one of my favorite roles he was ever in, opposite Billy Zane. Yes. We then see George Ramirez, who has been working with the dangerous chemical Zygrot 24, who, during his speech, shrinks before the eyes of everybody.
Yes.
We have worked very closely with Zygrot 24. I have personally supervised its development. No potential danger was left uninvestigated. The environmentalists are crackpots. All of them. This is ridiculous, I tell you. Totally ridiculous.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
That part is played by 4 different actors in the sequence.
I think one of whom was a body double in the Lord of the Rings movies.
I don't know which one, but the last 2 are Deep Roy, who is still acting. You can look him up. He's had an incredible career.
Yep.
And then Mihaly, I'm saying this wrong, Michu Mezaros.
Who's the tiniest of the 4.
He's Alf in the TV series Alf. Yes. The stunt double for Baby Mikey in Look Who's Talking. He was in Waxwork in 88, Big Top Pee-wee in 88, and frankly, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's really great.
So the deal was done. I was Ricky Coogan, toxic chemical salesman.
Alex Winter agrees to represent Zygrot 24, and next thing we know, we're on a plane with Ernie, which is the older brother from Blossom.
And I'm going to be honest, at this point, I really didn't want to watch this movie.
Yes. So, interestingly enough, there's a character arc here for this character that is very despicable.
Yes.
He shows up at this point with a hand hanging out of the crotch of his... Yeah, and he's making some jokes that just... I mean, they're just not
Well,
solid.
and this... I as I was hearing these jokes...
Yeah.
Flying fast and just thudding onto the floor.
Ladies, all I wanted was a manicure! Hey, I'm kidding. What is that, gravy?
It's like, I can picture
Yeah.
the people who wrote this thinking this is hilarious.
Yes.
Just so funny. And it's this weird, like, almost Borscht Belt comedy.
Yeah.
Where it's
so broad.
It's so broad and
Yeah.
so corny, and they're flirting with being raunchy, but not really that raunchy.
I didn't know if they were going for PG-13
Yeah.
or what, but they're definitely I think Alex and Tom, I forget the other guy's name, but we'll get to it. They're trying to portray these two characters so awful that
Yes.
by the end, they've learned their lesson.
Yeah.
That's the trajectory. And I forgot that when I was rewatching it even.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because I was like, oh, this is a little rough. But then when it gets to the end, you're like, okay, I get it. Like, they are
Yeah.
really clearly trying to be like, these people are terrible. You're not
Yes.
supposed to like them. They're going to go through some awful things. And then at the end,
And
they'll be better
unfortunately, they
people.
do it by trying to tell very unfunny jokes.
Yeah. It's a little rough.
And random jokes that's like, I know you think that's really funny, but it's not.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Can I get either of you gentlemen a pillow or a blanket?
The stewardess, played by Morgan Fairchild.
Who has like top billing.
Yeah.
I expected her to like
She'll be
show
back.
up and show up. Nope.
Absolutely not. Asks if they want a pillow, opens up the overhead luggage compartment.
Is that your luggage up there?
Yeah.
Is that your ugly little troll?
Stewie, Glock!
I gotta tell
What
you,
a weird subplot this is.
in '93, I loved Stewie Glunk. I just gotta, I'm gonna admit it. Stewie is an avid fan of Ricky, has an old pick from Baker's Dozen that he wants signed. Now, as someone who was in a high-profile film, what is it like to have that kind of legacy from a moment where you were 14?
Yes.
And to have people know who you were, and your character to have the nickname Lardass.
Mm-hmm.
Is it all, like you mentioned briefly earlier, is it all awesome and wonderful?
Well, it's
is it...
kind of a mixed blessing. You know, the great thing about Lardass is that he is the hero. You are rooting for him.
Yes.
And so there's the advantage of that. He's a lovable character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because as my later acting career, such as it has been, has mainly been on stage.
Yeah.
And it's with anything as an actor, I think it's important to kind of identify what one's type is. Like when you walk in
Absolutely.
the room,
Yeah.
what do people see, and then what does that trigger in them, and how do you work that to your advantage? And so I started discovering that I was playing a lot of like lovable losers. That it was the guy that you just adored him because he was kind and sweet, and he wasn't the hero, but he was most likely gonna, get the second-rate girl in the end, or what have you. Whereas, like, he wasn't in the A story, but
Right.
he was in the B story,
Mhm.
and he was gonna have a happy resolution. And that's kind of what Lardass is. And it's tough to live with my body type being what people point out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a body type that, frankly, if I could snap my fingers and, be the BMI that the chart says I am,
Right.
I would be fine with that. But I'm fine, I like the way I look.
Yeah.
I'm physically healthy. And it's strange because every once in a while I'll run into a fan whose affection for the role seems to include a little bit of making fun of my size or of the character's size.
Sure.
And of course, when I'm pictured on film, I'm in a full bodysuit, and I don't wear size 60 Levi's.
Yeah.
But the guy in the movie does.
Yeah,
'cause
the character
I've got
does,
all this
yeah.
padding on.
Yeah.
And so that certainly helps a lot.
Sure.
And so it is kind of strange when it's like, you're not really shaming me,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think you should say, boom, bada boom to anybody.
Right, exactly.
The point of that
Yeah.
in the film is that that's a bad thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I was in an improv group for a while, and one of the gentlemen that I adore that was in there, he's a like a larger gentleman, and I am a small guy, and so next to each other, it's visually very funny.
Yep.
And there was one group that we were in where one guy would say things all the time, and he was basically just calling this person who is a comedic genius fat. And it drove me so insane. And I got so mad because I was like, you're not talking about how brilliant or funny or talented this person is. You're just looking at someone and just judging them based on appearance.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, it's so maddening.
Well, and it's interesting because that's starting to change.
Which is great. Yeah.
Fat shaming and that sort of thing was, or maybe still is, like one of the last...
He's just holding on for dear life.
It's one of the last prejudices or ways that it's okay to bully people. And I've got all kinds of thoughts about body image acceptance and fat acceptance and all that sort of thing, because as someone who is big, if I was to stay this size for the rest of my life would be shorter. My joints, I would have joint problems. And so I love it that people are accepting of their bodies, and I want people to recognize that. As my girlfriend asked me the other day, she was like, do you consider yourself a fat person or a person who is fat? And I was like, oh my God, I've never thought of it that way.
There you go.
Which do I? Oh, what comes first, the person
Always
or the
person.
fat?
Yeah,
and the person does. But
absolutely.
But my answer to that was no, the fat came first. It's very cathartic all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so it is this strange legacy for me.
Right.
And the fact that it was, again, this guy in this movie, you love him. You're rooting for him.
Absolutely.
There's nobody's ever been like, well, I wish he didn't do that.
Wish
he didn't get his revenge.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool characters in the film, but honestly, me and my friends, we were rooting for you.
Yeah.
We wanted that scene to go exactly how it went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's so interesting because the film itself, Stand By Me, still stands up, as you were saying.
Yeah.
It looks good. It's it's well written. It's well crafted.
Yep.
There are some aspects of it that are of its era, and that's fine because it is of that time.
Sure.
So you've already got this, frankly, good film, and then my little bit in the middle, which I think is all of 4 and some odd minutes.
I believe so. Yeah.
Is equally, if not, more special than the movie that it's inside of, which is so interesting. It's rare that you'll see a film within a film that you're like, wow, if that was just a short film, I think that still would have been successful.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's such an interesting job.
Yeah.
To have you you're like, well, I got this thing, and then all these years later,
I still, I am here today with you
absolutely.
because of your interest and other people's interest in this, and it's at the top of my theatrical resume.
Sure, because it's film.
Yeah. And so when I walk into a room to audition for a musical somewhere, it's right up top, and very often people ask me about it. And I can't say that it's opened any doors to anything else necessarily, but it certainly has kept an open door open a little longer.
Well, and it's a fantastic, fascinating chapter that not many people have in their life.
Yeah.
So it's just that's pretty special. And to be 14 when that happens is pretty miraculous as well. Stewie then gets hit by a trolley and sucked out of an airlock.
Yep.
Oh, wait, before that, they hide in a bathroom with the lady who's sitting on the toilet,
Yes.
and Stewie gets his head trapped in the door, and then everyone starts crying because Stewie's like,
Rick, it says here Zygrod 24 is dangerous. Why are you lending your name to it, Rick? You used to be good.
then he's hit by a trolley and
Yep.
sucked out of an airlock.
Yep.
That they
So
then...
moving, giving us more information.
Yes. Yep.
Moving the story forward.
Here we go. They do have a conscience.
Yep.
Somewhat. They land. There's people protesting Zygrod, and Ricky sees a lady protester played by Megan Ward, disguises himself in all bandages.
Now, wait a minute. You've missed the fact that they've gone to a fictional Central American or South American country
that is true.
for no other reason but I think to be slightly racist.
Yes.
I don't see any reason that they had to go outside of the United States for this.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
In a movie that's very weird.
Because very, very shortly after they land, this foreign country is never referenced again. No one speaks anything but English.
No.
Except for the Rastafari eyeballs, have a little bit of...
Very true.
Again, when we get there, we'll talk about that racism.
Yes.
But
the Rastafaris? Yeah, we will indeed. He disguises himself in the bandages only to blow his cover moments later, once they're all in a car on the road.
Can you believe all that ghost dude crap?
Well, come on, with a script that bad, he deserves an Oscar for coming off as good as he did.
Well, he's no Christian Slater.
Slater? No, come on, I can act circles around that one note, hack!
Car that he is driving in the bandages?
No, he is in
that's
the back.
Right.
Ernie's driving.
Yes.
Then they start to see freak show signs and decide to make a pit stop, which is never a good plan in films.
Nope.
They pass through the woods to a myriad of odd sounds, including Woody Woodpecker,
Yes.
I think one of the Three Stooges.
And I was like, how much did they pay for the Woody Woodpecker
Oh my gosh.
sample?
That is, I would love to hear that for sure. They arrive at Freakland. There's a giant head, which is, in 93, I thought the same thing. I'm like, what was the budget on this? They really built a giant Randy Quaid head.
It was at this point that I was like, okay, wait a minute. I think I know how I'm going to be able to enjoy this movie. This is going to be all practical effects.
Yes. Yep.
Here we go.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Randy Quaid enters the film.
Let's go, Ernie. This place is dead.
Yeah, where's all the weirdos?
There are no weirdos here. Mutants? Yes. Genetic nightmares? Definitely. Children of hell and twisted masses of living, breathing, tormented flesh. Certainly. But as for weirdos, not a one.
He's fantastic as this role.
I have to say, I despise Randy Quaid.
Sure. Well, now it's very...
And, always.
Oh, okay.
And I loved him in this role.
Okay, good. That's great. I love that when you can see a film that you haven't seen before, and you're like, oh, this is who this actor was. Like, I think he is so great as Elijah Scruggs in this film. There's a giant toad who steals Ernie's candy bar and cigarette in this scene.
I used to blow up toads with firecrackers, pal.
Elijah invites him to see a private freak show, and he straps them down to tables, and he decides he's going to make them freaks.
Yes.
Perhaps I should tell you a little bit more about what I do. You see, I not only exhibit freaks, I make them.
They say, behold the Tasty Freaks machine, and it's the weirdest machine ever that makes goo.
I didn't look... I didn't do any research about who did all of these effects.
Yes,
all of these practical bills.
Screaming Mad George is the man that did the effects.
One of the things I thought was, this poor creature shop that did all of this great work on this film that no one cares about.
No, that's very true. Screaming Mad George, he did the practical effects for Big Trouble in Little China in 86. No,
makes total sense.
There we are. Predator in 87. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors in 87. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master in 88. Curse 2 The Bite in 89. Hide and Go Shriek in 88. Society in 89, which is an amazing movie for practical effects, and Bride of Reanimator in 89. So he did the crazy stuff. Screaming
so this
Mad George
was,
is nuts.
I feel like the 80s was like the golden age for stuff made out of foam rubber, coated in KY jelly.
Mm-hmm.
And this film is such a great example of that kind of craft.
Yeah, in Society, the film it's basically a movie about the 80s sort of culture and this cool kid, and he meets this the upper crust echelon of people, and they do this thing called the shunting, where they all kind of have an orgy where they become a giant undulating blanket of flesh.
Oh my god!
Yeah, a whole room full of people, and that's Screaming Mad George. Like that, it is. I've never seen anything like it.
I may have seen some of his stuff in person. There, when I lived in New York, I lived in Astoria, Queens, and I lived maybe 5 blocks from the Museum of the Moving Image. And they had an exhibit that included a bunch of the practical build-outs from some of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Probably. You probably saw his stuff.
And one of them was this, like, I'm going to say 20 by 20 wall of Freddy flesh. That had his face in one place and like hands.
Sure.
And
they probably had the chest piece.
Yes,
where all the screaming faces.
and like a giant. It also like had a giant Freddy sweater over it. So and
that'd
again,
be awesome.
However many, at least 20 years after it was used, still looked amazing.
I would love to see that. I mean, growing up in a video store, those effects and things, the fact that it's real. And it's tactile and you can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I love all of it. It's just the craftsmanship into the puppetry of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Gremlins, all of those things. It's just like, I want to see. I mean, people freaked out over Baby Yoda and Mandalorian because it's a puppet.
Because it's a real puppet.
Yeah. You can see light through the translucent ear part. It's not shiny and weird and weightless. It's like, it's pretty amazing. So Elijah goes to the computer.
But we digress.
Yeah. And the mouse is a mouse.
Yes.
And he turns it on, and we get this crazy claymation sequence of Julie and Eddie merging.
Yes.
This movie has numerous points where I'm like, I did not know we were going there. And yet here we are. We see Gumby masturbating.
Yes.
Which that happens.
There was no reason for that. They had to get the rights to Gumby and Pokey, and somebody said they're going to masturbate. Fine, just give me the money.
Yep. It's nuts. They become conjoined twins.
Feast your eyes!
Oh well. At least I'll never have to go far for a piece of tail.
Ricky's transformation we don't see. He awakes, and Elijah is calling Laughing Man, who's a guy who only laughs on the telephone.
Laughing Man, this is Red Swan.
Which has a gag where he's like, one more time slower, and Laughing Man spells out, ha, ha, ho, ha, ho, ho.
Got it.
Then we get the reveal, and Alex Winter looks amazing.
This was my good side!
Like, the makeup effects on Alex Winter's character in this, like, Screaming Mad George did an incredible job.
Yep.
Like, it is gross. There's, like, a mouthpiece involved with teeth, and holy smokes.
And what I didn't realize until later on in the film is that from that point on, all of Alex Winter's lines
Yes.
were dubbed in later.
Absolutely.
Because his mouth does not close.
It can't.
In that prosthetic.
Yeah. It is.
So on set, he must have been almost unintelligible.
Awful. It must have been awful. There must have been like water constantly because your mouth would dry out. And he wrote it and acted in it and directed it. So he knew what he was putting himself into.
So clearly there are some shots where he's wearing most of that prosthetic behind the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Because he doesn't have time
Oh,
to
absolutely.
take it off.
Oh, my gosh. I love that stuff. They go to an outhouse that's very huge once you go into it.
The TARDIS outhouse.
Yes. There's 2 Bob Vila jokes.
One of these days, I gotta put a shitter in there.
No problem, Elijah. It's all right here in my new book, Bedrooms and Bathrooms. In fact, if you take this one on 30...
Which, like... Okay, we're definitely in 1993.
Yes. This is one of the cement mile markers that shows us when this film was made.
Because they double down on a Bob Vila joke.
Bob Vila joke, yep.
It's incredible. Then he reveals himself to his friends, and Ernie projectile vomits.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's not so revolting.
So does Julie. And you have 2 on screen.
I have, and I was like, oh, okay, this is the cheap vomit effect.
And I didn't even know that. I mean, I had forgotten. I've owned this movie 3 times. Just to be honest about where we're at with this movie. I forgot about this sequence, and the second they started projectile vomiting, I was so excited that you were going to be a guest because I was like, what am I, like psychic or something? This is crazy. Because
subconsciously you knew.
I guess so. So in your scene in Stand By Me, I'm guessing there is a tube next to your face because it's not lined up perfectly in any movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's on purpose because they're just like, look, we all know what we're doing here. But was it difficult for you? Because, you're acting, you're going through the motions, but then you also have to hold your mouth open and point in a specific direction.
Well, it's so... My feeling about it at the time, as I can recall it, was this is so cartoony that... And honestly, I think that my direction basically was, turn to the side and just hold your mouth open.
Yeah.
And
and Rob Reiner told you that.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
I just had to say that
This
part.
was from the director.
It's so cool.
Rob Reiner. The thing that was so interesting to me was that the very first day of filming, we filmed basically up until our faces went into the pies.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day was up to my vomiting.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that moment, they didn't know what they were going to do.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So their first attempt was they filled the reservoir of a pressure washer with blueberry pie filling. All of the stuff that you see was blueberry pie filling mixed with large curd cottage cheese.
And they murdered somebody because the high pressure.
Yes, and so the fellow who played the guy that I throw up on, a character actor named Dick Durock, who showed me his resume, like 3 pages long, several episodes of the original Star Trek series.
Dick Durock.
Look him up on IMDb. Fascinating guy. You'll see his face and be like, oh my God, he's in all of these classic 60s Western shows. Again, like Star Trek. He had just come off finishing the Ewok Adventure movie, which was this like very forgotten about Star Wars spinoff. So, they taped the hose from the pressure washer to the side of my face, and I turn, and it just rockets out. And it had to leave welts.
And he's dead.
On this poor guy.
That is awful.
And so they're like, no, that's not going to work.
Was Dick like, no, it's fine?
No, he's a trained stuntman.
Just blew his shirt off.
Yes, exactly. I would love somewhere in a can is that footage.
Oh my gosh.
So what they ended up doing was and my timeline this is a little fuzzy, but the next day they had created essentially like they'd adapted like a caulking gun.
Okay.
And they would fill this tube with vomit, and then there was a flexible hose, and they then created an enormous version of this. So it was a cylinder that held 10 gallons of blueberry pie filling and cottage cheese, and a 3-inch vacuum hose, like one of those corrugated, like your dryer vent sort of things. And so they ran that along the floor up under my shirt and literally just taped it to the left side of my face.
Wow.
And then they got 4 men, and they like the strongest guys they could find to push down like a dynamite plunger to push all of this stuff. And, I could like hear it coming through and coming out of this hose. And the funny thing is that 4 guys was the magic number of guys, because they did one take with 3 and it didn't have enough force.
Yeah.
And so
So there's a 4th guy that like gets to have that story where it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Well, I gotta tell you, they tried with 3.
Yeah, they tried it with 3, but until I came in, I've got these guns, and the gun show was in full effect that day. And yeah, I mean and of course, as you mentioned, it doesn't. At one point, it's coming out of my nose.
Right. Yeah.
As far as it's
well,
lined
and some
up.
of the other characters that have the forceful vomiting as well. It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And it's just so cartoony, and then so there were 3 vomit techniques on film. There's the big tube for me.
Yeah.
And then there's
soup in the mouth.
Then there's the smaller one
Yeah.
where in Stand By Me there's someone like just out of shot pushing that plunger on the little caulking gun.
Got it.
And then for the wide shots, when the audience throws up, they passed out numbered Ziploc bags. So 1, 2, and 3. And the idea was that everybody loaded up, and then they rolled, and they would the DP would shout out, or the assistant director would shout out 1, and so then the 1s would spit this out, 2, and the 2s would spit it out. What I do remember that in one of the shots there was a little kid in front who just got overwhelmed by it all and actually throws up and starts to cry. I've never been able to see if that's in the take that's in the
that's
film.
Amazing.
So subsequent films have used I'm somewhat of an authority on film,
regurgitating
film
facts
vomiting.
Here.
So I remember in there's a movie where Jack Nicholson plays the devil.
Oh yeah.
And he throws up, and they do this thing where the actor like cups their hands like in front of their face with their palms.
Witches of Eastwick?
Yes, Witches of Eastwick, with their palms like at the base of their chin, and so the fluid is being shot, kind of like Spidey silk, from just below their mouth.
Got it.
And then of course you've got stuff like Freaked, where it maybe is
the pressure
washer technique, where they just turn their head and it just rockets out.
Yeah. There's a couple of things I don't like in movies. One of them, actually all of entertainment, fake drinking. I can't stand it. An empty cup, you're driving me crazy.
I'm actually the acting class that I referenced earlier. One of the activities that we're going to do, is about one of those cups has liquid. You need to pick them both up, and I need to not be able to know.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I can't stand it, and I don't like soup in the mouth. Why are we doing it? That's not puking. I've puked before, and it was never a casual. It's just not what happens. If that was true, people would be totally fine with puking if they were just like, it's just a mouthful and it rolls out. Like, no. I would take the tube, blast, anytime, because at least it's entertaining to see.
Or there you go. This is a great use of computer-generated animation.
What I don't want is in Andy Warhol's Dracula, Udo Kier drinks the blood of some virgins, and they're not virgins, and he literally like drank fake blood and vomits it in a bathtub.
Actually vomits it out
for way too long, and it is something you can't unsee.
Yep.
And it's just too. It's too real. Like, I'm not watching a movie about vampires for realism.
Yeah, like I don't want someone to actually be stabbed in this movie. Let's pretend stab somebody and make it look good.
I watch all kinds of horror movies. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Like, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
But, oh, man.
You're lucky I got a strong stomach.
And you are lucky I did not bite you.
Get away from me, you
freak.
Then enters Ortiz the dog boy, an uncredited Keanu Reeves. It's a good thing he's uncredited.
I thought, is that Keanu Reeves? It's gotta be. But then I looked, it's like, no, he's not credited.
Yeah. And it's now on IMDb. If you scroll the way down, it says uncredited Keanu Reeves. He's better in this than probably anything in the 90s. Because the whole time you're like, is it him?
Yeah.
And luckily, because he's in total dog boy makeup, you can't...
When he's affecting an accent of some kind?
Well, he'll never be on any of the lists that, like, Adam Sandler with Zohan or whatever is on, where they're like, you're culturally appropriating. Because you would show it and you'd be like, it's a dog boy. Yeah. And you'd be like, that's Keanu Reeves. And everyone would be like, no.
Yeah.
Also, what movie is this?
And perhaps the only... The final reference to the fact that we have traveled to some Spanish-speaking country.
Right. Well, and they didn't make him a Chihuahua. I appreciate that. There's some amazing footwork that's involved with him constantly scratching his ears.
Yes.
But the voice he does, it's a really good fake accent.
I am Ortiz, the dog boy, leader of the freaks.
Like, nobody... I would have never thought I'd look at Keanu Reeves and be like...
Keanu Reeves.
It does. It does a really good job. Like, there's no way that you would know that that's him. They then play the Hollywood Squares, and that's how we're introduced to all of the other freaks that are in the outhouse / barn.
Such a great, like, oh, you had this idea, and you had enough money to do it.
Yes. That's the thing about this movie is I'm constantly like, they had enough money to do this?
Yeah. I want to know what were the ideas that they couldn't afford.
Right, where they cut?
It really looks like...
The production value is there.
They were like, you know what would be really funny? Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
Oh, we can totally do that.
Let's make some Paul Lynde jokes.
Yes!
Because the audience for this movie knows who Paul Lynde is.
Well, it's 93, so
true.
close
That's
enough.
True. Let's break down a little bit of freaks. We got a giant worm, Nosy the Nose Man, cowboy, bearded lady, a guy who just farts fire, a sockhead, hideous frogman, which is just a French man in a wetsuit. Get it? The cowboy is played by John Hawkes.
Yes.
He's in Marcy May Marlene, which is an amazing movie about a cult. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't, but he is an Oscar-worthy actor who has not won an Oscar.
Right. And if you watch Marcy May Marlene, it's just about a cult. Mm-hmm. He plays sort of the cult figure. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where he's just playing an acoustic guitar, which I don't like acoustic guitars, but it's spellbinding. Like, it makes you go, oh, I get a cult.
He's
because
amazing.
He's so good.
And in this movie, he's in a giant cow mask.
For anyone who hasn't seen the film, he's a cow dressed as a cowboy. That's the situation.
That's his freakness.
That's John Hawkes. He's in Winterbone.
He's so good in Winterbone.
3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Eastbound and Down TV series. He's amazing. The Sockhead is voiced by Bobcat Goldthwait. The Bearded Lady is Mr. T. Nosy is Jeff Kahn, who is in Cable Guy, Tropic Thunder, and 40-Year-Old Virgin, to name some of his roles.
You buried the lead on this one. The Bearded Lady is Mr. T.
Yes, it's Mr. T.
Like, prime of his life.
Yes.
Mr. T.
I can say to the world, hey, this is me. I am woman, and I like me.
Yeah, as Mr. T.
Basically, as Mr. T with a beard.
Yes.
Who's a lady.
Yes. These are all facts. The Frogman is Tim Burns, who is the writer of the film. So Rosie the Pinhead is Patty Tippo. She plays John Malkovich's mom in Being John Malkovich, among many other things. She's a great working actress. And the Eternal Flame is Lee Arenberg, who is in all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I was like, is that the guy that's in? That's the
is.
Hello Puppet.
Pillin. I forget his name.
Yeah.
He's in a ton of stuff, but that's like one of the big credits that I can just say, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, he was in a movie where he just farts fire for 90 minutes. And like, yep, that's true. It's an incredible pedigree of talent in this movie. It's unbelievable. Ricky is sad, and his friends try to cheer him up, and the other freaks come over, and the giant worm tells his origin story.
We were all normal, healthy folk before we made the fateful mistake of coming to this hellhole at an off hour.
Which culminates to he would give anything just to wipe his own ass. And then spends the rest of the movie kind of trying to convince people to wipe his ass, which is strange. One of my favorite reoccurring jokes in the movie is that the sockhead guy is not good at things. So he tries to tell his origin story, and then he's like, sorry, I'm not good at stories, which is pretty great.
I first came here as a tourist, looking for some fun. Nice place. Then Elijah turned me into a sock. I'm sorry, I'm not much for stories.
And then Mr. T delivers a speech about how he came to Elijah. He basically wanted a sex change. It's a little questionable, this section. But one thing I do like about this, because it is a touchy thing, it's 1993, and we're talking about sex changes and someone being trans. Mr. T plays it so straight that I would argue it's not that offensive, because he's playing it like he says, this is my truth. Yeah. And I get in 93, maybe you're supposed to laugh at that possibly, but in watching it now, I was looking at it and I was thinking, it's such an interesting choice that he's just like, this is me, I'm woman. Yeah. And that's a joke I think they're making. But also when I watched it, I was like, it's kind of oddly respectful in a way.
Well, and I'm trying to picture offensive. Like they I don't think he has or she has like noticeable breasts.
They didn't do breasts or anything.
So there are so many opportunities for them to have made these terrible jokes
in a movie this big.
Yes, and in a movie that makes so many terrible jokes.
Yeah,
it really was interesting. Like, oh, this is because his story is like he shows up. He's a truck driver.
Yeah, he's super manly.
And he wants to be a woman.
Yep. He's conflicted. He says he's walking contradictions.
And there is this odd sensitivity to it that I'm like, okay, I can't fault you all the way for this.
I mean, of all the things that I've listed off that's so wild and crazy, and then you have this moment that I was watching and I was like, huh, well, I'm actually really thankful that isn't like, they didn't do huge boobs or anything that they're going to we're in 93. We're barely out of the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, a highly problematic comedy scene film.
Well, and it's this, you may have this later on in the discussion, but the way that environmentalism is presented in this movie is so interesting because when we first meet our female lead, she is there protesting at the airport.
Correct.
And there is all of this humor kind of like making fun of these stupid people for caring about the environment.
Yeah.
And yet we get to the end of the film.
Yeah.
And it strangely has this pro-environment message.
Yeah, yeah.
And we never go back and the film never goes back and apologizes or kind of unpacks why they were shaming environmentalists at the beginning. It just kind of is like, care for the planet at the end. And it's this really mixed message.
Yeah. I think part of that falls into like how terrible they are in the beginning to what they supposedly learned at the end.
And this the female lead,
Megan Ward, starts as this strong environmentalist.
Yes. And then it just kind of stops. Yeah. That part of her character never returns. She's not the one that makes any points about the positive aspects of saving the environment.
No, her arc is not so arced.
Yeah, she becomes attached
romantic.
She gets attached to the best friend, like literally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where her character ends as far as anything
it's true.
meaningful.
Yes. But my favorite character arc is that of the hammer, which they then show was originally a wrench.
Oh.
And then Elijah turned it into a hammer, which is pretty amazing. And then it cuts back and everyone's crying.
That's one of my favorite kind of jokes.
Yeah, me
where
too.
it's this
silly,
this elaborate. All of this effort is put into this total throwaway, simple joke.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that was the one time I laughed out loud watching this movie.
Oh, I had one, and like I've admitted, I've owned this numerous times later on, which involves the hammer, which might be one of my favorite things I saw this year.
I'll be waiting for you, Rick!
Thanks, Stewie.
Ah! It's the troll!
Then Alex sees a phantom Stewie, and the cowboy tells Rick that he has a telepathic link to Stewie, and he says he's got to let him into his heart. Stewie draws a picture of Ricky as a mutant and takes it to all these different newspapers that throw him through the glass door.
Once America sees what happened to Ricky, they'll probably send the whole FBI down to save him. I'll probably win a Pulitzer Prize for this scoop, and I'll dedicate it to Rick.
To the point where when he finally sells it to National Enquirer, he says, "I know the way out," and just throws himself through the glass door.
Which to me was the moment where I was like, oh, this is Beavis and Butthead do Airplane.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. They were coming straight off of MTV.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie is. This movie is a 1993 MTV movie.
Yeah.
Basically. At a different studio. Stewie reads the article on the street and is picked up by the mafia types and the laughing man. Uh-oh, Stewie.
Oh, no. Poor Stewie.
Then we get back to Freakland. We get a glimpse of the chaos at a freak show. There's a clown who will fart your weight. There's a petting zoo and a heavy petting zoo. Eliza introduces the show. The Pinhead opens with an amazing song. Just heartfelt. Eddie and
how strange. I mean, Pinheads. This is. I don't know what the appropriate name for that condition is.
Right.
This is. Yeah. There are people who.
Oh yeah, I have a book all about freak shows.
Are. That's the condition that they have.
Yes.
And so it's so odd that it's like we've got the cow-headed guy, we've got the giant worm. Oh, and a pinhead
who just howls.
Yes.
Yeah. It's well, Nosy always bugged me. I think he's my least favorite character. But I don't know. There's not even jokes about the nose really. It's anyway. Eddie and Julie tap dance and do some jokes. It's very vaudevillian.
Hey, Julie, how many feminists does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
2. 1 to screw it in, and 1 to ride my Rodney.
Mr. T gives a makeover tutorial, which is actually quite great.
If your coloring is in the autumn range like Maria, I would suggest you try the earth tone eye makeup. Now, as you can see, I've done a lovely French braid on Maria, but I encourage everyone to experiment and use your imagination.
Nosy break dances in a gorilla suit. I'm not sure why. Now we're up to one of my favorite moments, where Sockhead plays the bells.
La 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 la, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, it makes a tasty meal.
Alex Winter is credited with playing the bells on the soundtrack. He's one of 3 people that wrote this performance and recorded it with Bobcat, which is, I would watch that.
Yes.
I would watch them in the studio.
Yes.
And then he bows, and the sock catches on the mic, revealing a hand underneath. And Gibby Haynes from the Butthole Surfers stands up and yells,
Hey, he's got a hand under there! It's a hoax!
And then they say everything's fake, and it starts a riot. And I gotta tell you, 1993, Dirk, couldn't have been happier with this scene.
And I believe this is our first of 2 appearances by Larry Bud Melman.
This is true. Thank you for recognizing Larry Bud Melman.
Of course! Of course.
Yeah, I actually looked up the character he's playing because I was like, is this, like, real? Like this, and then I was like, oh no, I know who this person is.
I had to go to YouTube to show my girlfriend.
Oh, that's great.
Who Larry Bud Melman is, because like you need to understand
absolutely
how important he was at this period of time.
Oh yeah. It's pretty amazing. The worm backstage tells Rick, as an actor, he should use his craft.
Don't you see? You must turn your hardship into inspiration. You're an actor, Rick. Your body is your instrument, and with it you must play your tragic symphony for all the world.
So we then have Rick take the stage and deliver a Shakespearean monologue.
Yep.
Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York.
That has subtitles.
Yeah.
Which is so strange. There's a lot of breaking of the fourth wall in this movie. Again, because of its time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing. Professor Nigel Crump, as we were discussing, interjects that there will be subtitles. He gets a standing ovation, so he feels pretty good about his acting. But then the EES guy shows up. And, well, he doesn't like Ricky's new look.
I really love this new look you got going for yourself. It's fresh, it's hip, the kids will love it. But back at EES, I don't think the big boys upstairs are going to get it.
What are you saying?
Well, Rick, what I'm trying to say is that, you're ugly enough to burn the nose hairs off a dead nun.
So Ricky rips his head off. Cue more of the same Butthole Surfer song. And a riot ensues. The next day, the freaks are playing Wheel of Fortune, so we have a game show theme happening within the outhouse where they're at. Ernie reveals that they plan to escape, but not with Ricky.
But not with Ricky, because Ricky's terrible.
Yeah, so Ricky's gonna leave on his own.
This isn't one of your dumb movies, Coogan. Ortiz is a good dog, a smart dog. I'll talk to him for you. Don't be stupid. You can't do this without us.
I don't need you, EES, or anybody else. I'll get out of here all by myself.
A milkman arrives, kicking off another favorite sequence of mine. The milkman is Tom Stern, co-writer and director. He plays the milkman and he says, hey, they're all in an outhouse.
Yep.
And
with a tiny little hatch at the back.
And the outhouse, from that place, the milkman hears him say,
Hey, you, milkman.
Me?
Yeah, you. I got something to show you. Come around to this little trap door.
I got something to show you. He says, he tells him to come around to the tiny door because he has a turd that looks like Kim Basinger.
What is it? I just laid a turd that's the spitting image of Kim Basinger.
Boy, if I had a dime for every time I heard that.
She's naked, too.
Really? This I gotta see. That's just a regular turd.
And then a second later, out comes Ricky in a milkman
outfit.
And this is what you had alluded to earlier. The giant head is spinning around. The eyeballs disappear. And then we have two giant eyeballs with Rastafarian hats on.
Stop in name of Eli Selassie. Don't move, Babylon milkman.
They are speaking in a gibberish Rastafarian conversation way. And they have Uzis.
Two beautiful practical costumes.
I mean, it's the way that the cornea is moving for the mouth of them. It is wild.
Yes. And it's just, I remember watching them and being like, oh, it's too bad this is kind of racist.
Yes, it's tricky. They take him to Elijah's den. Laughing Man calls. Elijah reveals that the final mutation stage will happen tomorrow. So now the plot is moving forward.
You're gonna be a hideous killing machine. Tomorrow night, I'm gonna finish the job on stage. And then you're gonna slaughter all the old freaks. And from their ashes, you'll rise like a mighty phoenix.
It's gonna be super crazy. Ricky then leaves and runs into all the other freaks dressed as milkmen.
Dressed as milkmen. Because that was their plan all along.
Another milkman!
Hey, Rick, couldn't you come up with your own escape plan?
Here's the part with the hammer. Mr. T's holding it, and the hammer is in a tiny milkman outfit.
Oh, I missed that. I missed that.
And it, like, I've seen it numerous times. It wasn't until this viewing that I saw him holding the tiny... Oh, my gosh. The fact that...
hammer disguised as a milkman.
That they went to props and were like, we need a tiny milkman outfit for the hammer.
But your own escape plan.
You gotta be kidding me. A dozen milkmen? Isn't that a little unusual?
12 milkmen is theoretically possible.
Yeah.
13 is silly.
And then he and Alex Winter have a fight.
Well, don't they cut to the inside of
Yes.
Randy Quaid's cabin, and he looks out and he says, wow.
That's a lot of milkmen on the same route. No wonder they fight.
Yes.
It's so ridiculous.
What I want to know for a movie like this is how much of this was scripted in advance.
Absolutely.
Because you can't be on set and say, you know, it would be really funny.
Right.
If the eyeballs came out of the giant head.
Oh, yeah, no, that is...
And they were Rastafari's.
Yeah.
Get it? Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to shoot that, right? No.
No. There's a lot of preparation.
I could see the milkman hammer being like, look. Go to wardrobe. They can sew this up in an hour.
Yes.
You know, let's do this over lunch.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I can see.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is so wild. Then Ortiz sees a squirrel and takes chase. The Rastafaris follow suit, and he's gone for the rest of the film, pretty much.
If it wasn't for Rick, we'd all be dead.
Oh, thanks, son. Ricky's good.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Come on, you heard the Beast Boy. Back to the freak house.
Yeah.
Now!
All I wanted was a hug.
Maybe I was wrong about you, Coogan.
Alex Winter kind of becomes the new leader in this moment. We get some really interesting effects when they come up with this plan to tunnel underneath to Elijah's lab to make a Zygrot. There's a part where Mr. T uses his voice to spook everyone by impersonating Elijah Scruggs.
Gotcha, freak!
Fool you. Didn't know I did impression, did you?
Now, I touched on it in the beginning, but you also have a voice talent because you are an auctioneer.
Yes.
How did you get into auctioneering?
It's a new career for me, and it's this strange confluence of experiences and skills kind of adding up into this opportunity.
Yeah.
I've had two career paths. One is in youth development, working for nonprofits.
Awesome.
Mainly residential education, so summer camps and environmental ed, so outdoor school.
Cool, yeah.
And then I've had this career as an actor. Mm-hmm. So as an auctioneer, one of the skill sets that is useful is to be able to command and lead and focus a crowd of people. Well, I've done that.
It is, yeah.
I've done it on stage as an actor, and I've definitely have done it, at camp or, in events where, I'm up in front of 1,000 people telling them what's going on.
Right.
And so I a year and a half ago, kind of left the nonprofit world again to get back into the world of performing. And I went to a friend of mine who has a company, Swaim Strategies, works with nonprofits, around the country on their events. And I was talking to Sam, and I said, Sam, here's some things that I've been thinking about. And she basically said, you're going to be an auctioneer. You're going to call Kelly Russell at Artisan Auctions, and she's going to train you. This is going to be great.
Wow.
And I said, yes, Sam, I'm going to call Kelly Russell at Artisan Auctions, and this is going to be great. And I did. And so last summer, I trained with Kelly. Wow. And have, the expectation that we all have of an auctioneer is that you have that chant, which is the 100, 200, 300, that thing. And I'm still developing mine. It's nothing fancy.
Yes. I heard someone speak about auctioneering once, and they were talking about how you kind of get, just like an actor has their own sort of presentation of a character or something, you develop your own auctioneering style.
Yep.
Like you're the fast talking stuff, and you know, you get your.
And mine has already changed from what it started as.
That's fascinating.
Because it becomes this unconscious thing, because you're counting quickly and you're responding to the bids in the room, and you use these nonsense phrases or syllables or whatever's in between to connect things, and it's what people expect you to do.
Yeah.
And so while as an auctioneer I could just go and just count.
Yeah.
Because honestly, counting fast is maybe even easier than doing a chant.
Sure.
But people expect it. They want that habit, because in their mind, you're not an auctioneer unless you're doing that.
Wow. And you don't have to say what the thing is. You just do the counting part. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, often you'll work with an MC who is, you know, and there's a PowerPoint of all of the stuff. So, you know, there is a conversation that's going on, because if you stop at one point, you're like, you know, I bid 14, bid 15, 14, bid 15, 14, 15, 14, I'm a bid 15, I'm a bid 15, I'm a 15, we're here at 15, my friend here has 15, who'll go 16, I'm a 16, 15, go to 16, so 16, we're at 1600, who's 17, 1700, 18, I'm a bid 18, I'm a bid 19, 19 bid a 2, 2000, 19 bid a 2, 19 bid a 2, $2,000, and
it's addictive,
and part of it is you're wanting to kind of get people to lose control.
Yeah.
And so that that propulsion of that forward momentum of the sound of that counting is a part of the excitement of it.
Sure.
And you're kind of tapping into the fight or flight in people's brains, and they like, oh, okay, well, you know, I'm 2100. Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm 23, and it's this strange mix of pushing and leading a crowd at the same time. And the specialty that Artisan Auctions does is we do benefit auctions.
Got it.
So we're always working for an organization whose values we believe in.
Yeah. That's actually great, because then the gluttony spending of things is going towards something. I was recently at we do a lot of food things, and I was at an auction that was a benefit, and and seeing people like just throw thousands of dollars at something, rather than being like, oh, look at these people. You're like, wow, they're donating basically all this money. Like, they want the bottles of wine and the fishing trip or whatever it is, but like, I mean, they're also there because it's a benefit.
Well, and what a lot of organizations are going to, and what is actually making them a lot more money, is what is often called a paddle raise, and it's like you're not bidding on anything.
Yeah.
I as the auctioneer say, you know, you'll have people who have pre-committed in the room. So in theory, you know that there are two people that are going to give you $20,000.
Right.
So we're going to start at the $20,000 level. Who will raise their paddle to support Campfire Columbia at $20,000? Number 378. Thank you so much. Number 285 is in at the $20,000 level. Who else in the room will support? And you know, here's another, and here's another. All right, so now we're going to go to the $15,000 level. If you're comfortable supporting this organization at $15,000, raise those paddles high, and then you go on down to you know, the $50 level or whatever, you know, that particular group. And organizations are making hundreds of thousands of dollars that way. And there's no, it's interesting because the kind of social contract of the auction has shifted, where people aren't going there thinking they're going to get a bargain.
Right.
In fact, people are going there and they don't want an auction.
Yeah.
They're just going to give you $5,000.
Sure.
And if I'm good as an auctioneer and we've set things up so maybe there's a match, everybody at $5,000, this other donor will match you $5,000, so your $5,000 becomes $10,000. And so if I'm doing my job right, I'm actually getting you so excited that you're like, well, I was going to give $500, but I think I'm going to give $1,000. This is really exciting. And they're going to match me at 1,000. So I was going to give 500, but if I give 1,000, I'm really giving 2,000.
Right.
And it's tapping into that, to your excitement, to your generosity, and you're kind of in this fugue state,
right,
of giving to an organization, as opposed to, I want to get a deal on going to Mazatlan.
Yeah.
See if I can get Mazatlan for $250.
Oh, can you do that? Well, I got to say, probably rooted in who you are as a person and the work you've done with nonprofit, that comes through you as the auctioneer. Because just in the timbre of your voice and how you're presenting it right now, it seems very human. And not like a game show host.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, I joke that I missed my true calling, which was to be a game show host.
Sure.
But
I don't mean that. There's no fake facade.
And that's that. I appreciate that. Just that little bit of hearing me. That's how I come across.
Yeah.
Because that's how I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a paddle raise for the Cedars-Sinai Center here in Portland. And they serve.
When is that?
It'll be. I think that's going to be in April.
Okay, great.
It's April or May.
By then,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it'll be in April or May. And the conversation that I had with with Drew, the woman who's been my contact there, was about that. What I do with a group is I am authentic. I try to be real and connect to them and care about the organization and the people in the room. And that is, that's not going to work with every group.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about the Artisan Auctions is we've got a number of auctioneers and each of us brings a different flavor. And so I'm probably not the best, like fancy pants,
uptight,
uptight, like
I've definitely seen
feel
those
sort of important sort of thing, and I can pull that off because
Sure.
I can kind of code shift into that character. Right. But one of my colleagues, or several of my colleagues actually, they really connect with that kind of crowd where it's like, oh, this auctioneer is classy. I go from 0 to frumpy in like 6 seconds, and I sweat. And
it's good. It's a variety of skills.
Yeah, my joke is that when I'm auctioneering, I look like Jerry Lewis in the 23rd hour of the telethon, where he's just rumpled and sweaty,
anymore.
and he's given up, and they're so close to their goal. He's working so hard for you.
Oh, that's so great.
Been sleeping on a cot during the commercial breaks.
He's only leaning on things. Yeah, I used to love those things.
Just made it. Okay, everybody, listen up. Now we cracked the code and made the ointment we need to bring Scuggs down for good.
Rick loses the can of goo that's supposed to be there, saving Grace, and he escapes back through the amazing special effects tunnel.
Yes, the collapsing tunnel.
It's so classic.
I found some macaroons, and there's plenty for all of us.
I hate macaroons.
Suddenly we see them all wake up after a party of some sort. It's very strange.
Well, didn't he bring back...
Oh, he brought back macaroons.
Yes, randomly a bag of macaroons.
Yes, and then it looks like they had a giant party. There's like streamers and stuff, as you do with macaroons.
Because macaroons,
come
on.
It's nice to see you in the flesh, laughing man.
I think we can dispense with the code names, Elijah. We're all friends here.
EES has arrived. Laughing Man is William Sadler.
What?
What a reveal!
Oh, man, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, they dump Stewie at a sack, and he uses his psychic link.
I'm in the lab! I'm in the lab! I'm in the lab!
He's not only ugly, he's crazy, too.
To tell Rick that he's in the lab. The Toad Man puts him in a cage with a 2-headed chicken. Which I was just like, every corner of this movie is filled with something that costs them money. I don't know how.
Because at this time, Alex Winter was a hot commodity,
yeah.
And this style, I'm imagining, this style of movie, executives did not understand.
Right.
But there had been some successes.
That's true.
So they were probably like, I don't know, just kind of let them do their thing.
I think it's what kids are into.
I think the kids really will dig this. I don't get it, but...
Did you see a guy that farts fire the entire time? I'm in. It's like the movie Speed, which I don't know if that came out by now. Ricky tells Stewie to escape and bring the can of goo, and EES tells their story of using goo to mutate employees and eventually the world.
My God.
Sadler delivers my favorite line.
Bill, if I could just add one thing. Those who dare oppose us will stand knee-deep in the blood of their children.
It's just like, holy shit.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. Rick goes through saying goodbye to each freak one last time.
Yep.
Today, I make the proudest boast a man can utter. Ich bin ein Freak! I am a freak.
And then we're at the show, and it's this big set piece of the film.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, the Beast Boy!
Stewie turns into a mega troll. They pour the goo on him. He's like 11 feet tall now. An
amazing practical puppet prosthetic combination. Yeah.
It must have been 300 pounds and so hot.
Yes.
I just thinking about the actor that was wearing it, I was like, I can't even imagine.
And it looks like, the artist, like they hired the artist who did like the original Garbage Pail Kids.
Yes, that's the look of this.
And it's,
for sure.
big buggy eyes and huge ears.
Yes.
It was at this point I was just amazed at the practical effects.
It's so crazy.
Your ass is mine, Scuds!
The Toad tries to get him, but they throw an M80 and he blows up. As Toads do.
Mm-hmm.
Something I never noticed is right at this point, the milkman wakes up in the cage.
Yes,
with freaks,
in the cage, just
and
randomly.
He's naked, and he's like, ah! It's like, it's this director.
But does he still have his milkman hat on?
He does.
So
just
we
the
know
hat.
that he's the
Yes.
milkman.
That's
yeah.
which is that was a conversation on
yes,
set.
like should he? How are we gonna know he's the milk?
Well, he's
just
gotta
put the hat on.
He's got to have the
Well,
hat.
we took the hat. I don't care.
Yeah.
Put the hat on.
But they returned the hat.
Yeah.
Elijah smears the goo on Ricky, making him the crazy mutant, and then the two fight on stage.
Come on!
Right now!
Wait, Rick! Could you sign this first?
Time to die, troll!
If you have not seen this movie and you were wondering what this all looks like, it is insanity.
Yeah.
It is so crazy. EES tries to steal the machine. Elijah sprays them with Zygrot 24, and they mutate into a giant fleshy shoe.
Yes. Which then, waddles off of the screen.
And this shoe has eyes. The tongue is a tongue. It's so wild. There's no opportunities missed here.
I mean, you can hear them coughing up the joint that they had smoked. We're like, oh, it's a shoe. It's totally a shoe.
Everything but a shoe, but there's a shoe. Get it? Then we're back on the talk show. Brooke Shields says that he's been talking for almost 90 minutes and they need to go to commercial.
Yes.
Which is a great time for us to go to commercial. So now a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Marshall's Hot Sauce. Founded in 2011 by Sarah Marshall, author of Preservation Pantry. Having been a social worker for over a decade, Sarah wanted to continue to create community, only this time through food. Starting by sourcing from local farms and asking farmers to plant specific types of peppers and breeds of tomatoes, each sauce is made from fresh seasonal produce. There are 4 main sauces: smoked habanero barbecue, red chili lime, serrano ginger lemongrass, and habanero carrot curry. And around 12 rotating seasonal flavors, including ghost chili apple and cranberry red jalapeno, those being the current fall flavors. All made from produce at its peak of freshness and all done by hand. Head on over to marshallshotsauce.com, that's Marshalls, H-A-U-T-E, marshallshotsauce.com, and use code VHS Podcast, one word, that's VHUS Podcast, at checkout for 20% off your order. That is VHS Podcast at checkout for 20% off. All right. And now back to the show. And we're back. And we get... I love that in podcasts where you're like, did they just sit in the room for that whole time?
What happened?
Or what is
Yeah, I mean, this is 3 days later,
Yes.
which you don't realize. That was a really long commercial
Yes,
break.
It's true. We're still here. Same outfits. We get the Machismo commercial for Manly Cheese.
You like cheese. You like being a man. That's why you'll like Machismo. Real cheese for real men. Now in a handy aluminum dispenser.
So they put a commercial in the movie. Then Rick is going to stab Stewie, but he hears Cowboy.
I reckon that troll could help you if you just let him into your heart. Your heart. Your heart. Your heart.
Elijah tries to fight Rick and then divulges that there's an antidote that was baked into macaroons. Uh-oh.
If you ask me, you skimped on the coconut.
And then Rick kicks him in the crotch because it's 1993 and he flies into the vat of Zygrot.
Yep.
The FBI shows up and admits that they saw Stewie's article, but then because it's in National Enquirer, they had to investigate Satan's love child.
Yes, because it was on page 3 and there were so many other important things they had to investigate.
And the house that dripped blood. Elijah appears from the goo and he's Brooke Shields.
What the hell are you looking at? Dead meat.
And the FBI shoots him. And then they're back on the show and everyone's fine. The light comes on and Ricky had a cactus behind him the whole time.
Yes, because when he's pictured in silhouette, it appears that he has horrible deformities.
Yes, that he's still the mutant. And then a squirrel runs on stage, followed by Ortiz. So Keanu's back. And then there's a couple Brooke Shields getting back up, getting shot sequences that happen. They deliver their speeches about how the characters have grown, essentially.
How they've changed.
Ernie has a conscience, even though he was so disgusting in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Somehow being attached to a woman has changed him.
That when man starts impinging on the subtle perfection of the Earth's natural order, the only thing he'll create is havoc.
Yeah, and you can see what they were going for in those parts. They're like, nobody learned not to be such a douchebag.
But at this point, it's just kind of pro forma.
Oh, yeah, it is madness.
Yeah, they're just wrapping it up.
Exactly. Very, I think so, obviously. Then we get the credits. And the Freak of the Week funk song, which is... It has Ricky Coogan lyrics in the song. So I was like, this was written for the movie? And it was by George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, and Bill Laswell. So those three accomplished musicians wrote Freak of the Week for Freaked in 1993.
Amazing.
Yeah. Which brings us to the final section, and this is all about you. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share on Freaked?
Oh my gosh. Again, I really didn't want to watch this movie because it was a type of funny that I never found funny.
Sure.
And it wasn't doing it very well, but I was pulled in by all these great practical effects.
Yeah.
And also that, as I said before, I love a joke that is a simple joke that has been wrapped in incredible complexity in order to pull it off.
It's so much just the effort involved in all of it and the time.
There's lots and lots of this in this movie.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate that because, I'm never concerned if the guest likes or doesn't like the movie, which is a weird thing to do, I know. But because I don't want to argue validity of art and things that people make.
Well, this is a movie from 93.
Right.
And so probably in context, there are much worse movies.
Oh, but yeah.
At that time that fall into this same
right
type.
But you got John Hawkes in a cow outfit And like,
Yeah.
I don't want to belittle his efforts he put into this movie. Like, you know, I think that that's great. And basically, if this movie did nothing else, it made it so that you and I sat down and had a conversation about your experiences in your life. And I greatly value that in your time. So
Yeah. Well,
thank you
so
for
much.
watching Freaked for sure. So in the final section, just a couple questions. What is a good day like for you?
Oh, gosh. Well, Ludwig von Schnorfelhausen.
Oh, yes.
And I get some quality snuggle time in. That's important.
Turtlebat Pig on Instagram.
At Turtlebat Pig. You know, always be selling. Always be selling. One of the things I've joked is since I've brought him into my life, the portion of my life pie chart that is labeled snuggling has increased exponentially.
That's good for you.
So yes. You know, a good day, I'm either, you know, recording a podcast, or, you know, in rehearsal for something, or in performance for something, or, you know, doing a good benefit auction. You know, time with my girlfriend, and her dog and my dog are generally indifferent to one another.
Yes.
And so, you know, quality girlfriend
Is it the
and dog time.
number of followers thing? Is the other
Yes,
dog just like...
Yeah. You can follow him at Linus Pickles.
Oh, Linus Pickles.
Yes, Linus Pickles. And yeah, you know, a good day might also, I love to go camping. So
you're in a good part of the...
Yeah, getting out into the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
You
Awesome.
know, there's rain on a tent. That's a lovely thing.
And I hate to ask it, but I have to. It's on the paper.
Of course.
What is a bad day like?
Oh, a bad day. Being stuck in traffic is something I definitely don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I think it's so weird if somebody was like, ooh, I love traffic.
I love traffic. Traffic's great. That's my jam.
When it slows down and then it's like, ooh, is this traffic?
Yeah, turn on the NPR political coverage and just stew in it. It's so
mad.
great.
Just reading other people's bumper stickers and being like, I wonder if their ideology matches mine.
Yes, exactly. What's that symbol? Is that a white pride symbol? What is that?
Is that the Jesus fish or something mocking the Jesus fish?
Is that the Cthulhu fish? I can't tell. I'm gonna drive a little bit closer. Oh, yeah, and you know, I don't think the temperature needs to get anywhere above like 75.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I would say 73 personally.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say 72, but I'm gonna be, a little bit more makes it pleasant to, you know, go swimming in a river or a lake.
Sure, that's true. I was just in San Diego, and I gotta say, a windy 73. A little cold to be at a pool. A little cold. I have a daughter, so we are in the pool if we're at a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's a little. It's You definitely want it hotter if you're going to be swimming or removing clothes for sure.
Yeah.
What are your favorite things about being a person who has had a chapter in their life that involved such a well-known film?
I love stuff like this. I mean, this film has been this wonderful...
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. not Freaked. The film Stand By Me has been this wonderful catalyst for, you know, conversation, for, you know, I've been on a number of podcasts, you know, usually just to be interviewed about the film, period. And I run into people for whom that movie is a special and important part of their life.
Absolutely.
And so by meeting me, it's clear that in that moment, it's kind of given them like a brightly burning access to that love and that happiness. And it's not, you know, I don't flatter myself that they're in awe of, you know, me standing in a fat suit.
You don't throw up on
No,
them?
no, I don't. No one has asked me about. May I throw up on you?
Oh, I know what you want. 1 second.
Everybody. But yeah, it's been this it just keeps on giving. You know,
Yeah.
I get residuals from the film.
That's great.
I got a check for $9.53
Whoa.
the other day.
Nice.
So big money still
Yeah.
rolling in from Stand By Me.
That's good. Gotta love those residuals. Yeah, it's what was. So it's been a while since 1986.
Mm-hmm.
Was it difficult, say, in the later teenage years? Like, did you expect a Stand By Me 2 or something was going to happen right away?
Well,
like, did people recognize you then? Like, were they...
Not really.
Okay.
The only time I ever got recognized was if, and it used to amuse me no end. Let's say I'm at a party, and I just get this tingly sense from across the room that somebody's pointing me out.
Okay.
And saying,
Mm-hmm.
you know, oh, that's the guy he was in Stand By Me. And then later on, the person who I was pointed out to will kind of come up to me, and they'll like give me this look like, wait a minute, do I know you from... Well, you know me from being pointed out across the room.
Yeah,
Let's not pretend
Yeah.
that you recognized 19-year-old me with long hair
Right.
and a scrappy beard from 14-year-old me with no beard and really, really short hair.
Right.
And so that would always amuse me. It's like, okay, I'm going to play along with you
Right.
because you're embarrassed, and this is how we're going to start what eventually will be a pleasant conversation about
Yeah.
Stand By Me.
That's so funny. Do you have any advice for someone who would like to do any of the creative things that you do? I'll just open it up, because between the podcast, the auctioneering, acting, voice work, say somebody's listening and they want to create something,
Sure.
but they just...
I think the advice that I have is to make it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine who subsequently has gone on to great success as a songwriter,
Carly Simon.
And that girl grew up to be Abraham Lincoln. And the thing that we used to talk about was, if you need to be famous,
Mm-hmm.
if the art you want to make requires you to be famous and well known, you have to move to LA.
Yep.
Or you have to move to New York.
Correct.
And that's no guarantee. And if what you want to do is to make some art, Portland, Oregon is a fabulous place to do that.
Agreed.
And particularly now, podcasts are so great. The joke is everybody has a podcast.
Right.
To which I respond, good.
Yeah.
Because, of course, yeah, say the stuff that you want to say. Think about the things that you want to think about. Bring other people in and talk about them. Or, with your phone, you can shoot and edit a film that's better quality than Freaked.
Yeah.
As far as what, because we...
I mean, not budgetarily.
Not
but-
budgetarily, but, I saw a 480p copy, that somebody has posted on YouTube.
Yes.
And, you can do full high def on your phone, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so true.
And I guess what's taken me a long, long time to finally accept is I need to make the stuff that I want to make. And if other people like it,
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
And, so the Kick-Ass Oregon History podcast, that's my friend Doug Kent Crispin and I. We've been friends since high school. And
same thing for me and my producer,
yeah,
editor, JL.
It's funny
since
how it
high
works.
school.
Yeah. And so we're making that podcast for ourselves.
Yeah.
We're picking subject matter that interests us. I'm, rewriting and editing and doing funny voices and stealing music.
It's really fantastic.
Thank you. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And if nobody listened to it, we probably would still make some.
Yeah. I would hope so. The production value of it, I told you before mics were on, is so great. Like I mean, like you said, anyone can have a podcast, and it's true, and they do, and there's tons, and they're 3 hours long, and it's just friends talking about whatever. I love a program. Like, you have a format, you have voices. I mean, the way that it's structured, it feels like a show. And that level of detail, I just think is, it's something that, one, sets it apart from other things, and two, I just found it fascinating, and I was wondering what would happen next, rather than just be like, oh, I know they're going to talk for 3 hours. And I listen to podcasts where people talk for 3 hours. I'm just saying I really appreciate the level of detail that you bring to the program. Yeah.
You know, and that kind of quickly evolved because we thought it was fun that way. And, you know, Doug does live versions of a lot of the same stories that are him, you know, speaking in front of a PowerPoint. And it's also enjoyable.
Yeah.
But that's not, you know, we wanted this like slam bam.
It's got a good pace to it.
Yeah, so you know, somewhere between a nature documentary, a Ken Burns film, and you know, going to a Black Sabbath show.
Yeah,
somewhere in that Venn diagram.
I think that sums it up. in Oregon.
Yeah.
Well, this brings me to the final question.
Ooh.
And it's my favorite question.
Here we go.
Andy, what are your dreams like?
Oh, gosh. Like my literal dreams?
Betty Bye dreams. Not
my Betty Bye dreams.
Not aspirations or anything.
Let's see. I definitely dream in color. I know this for sure.
That's cool.
They often incorporate bits and pieces of what's going on currently in my life, and I don't want to say they're mundane, but it's unusual that I'll have a dream that is
you're flying on a brownie somewhere.
Yeah, where it's this trippy thing.
Right.
I think more often than not, my dreams are prophetic, where I will, many years later, have the sense of it's not deja vu. It's, oh my God.
Yeah.
I dreamed this.
That's so cool.
And I can like picture the, like Dutch angle, slightly off color view of what is actually happening to me in that moment.
Wow.
And it's never like, oh my God, I dreamed this and I totally know why I dreamed it.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, this is really weird.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
Ballet. Well, we'll see.
Oh, okay. All right. And, I kept a dream journal for a while, and it was like I was sitting on the grass with a friend from childhood, and a car drove by.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's not the most exciting.
But it's in color.
Yeah, but it's in color. It was green grass. It was a blue car.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Sort of Lynchian. Well, again, thank you for being here.
This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for watching Freaked. And people can find you hosting Kick-Ass Oregon History Podcast at orhistory.com.
That is correct.
It's a nice website. And then you're a benefit auctioneer, but people can find that at artisanauctioneers.com as well.
Artisanauctions.com. And you can go to andylindberg.com.
Oh.
It's very sparse right now.
Okay.
But if you're a big Stand By Me fan, there's a link to a bunch of scans of photos that my brother took when he came to visit the set.
Oh, cool. I haven't seen that. I'll check that out.
And then I've also added in a few more that people have shared with me over the years. So it's all behind the scenes and
cool.
And there's just some fun, like, oh, look, there's Will Wheaton standing over off to the side.
Last question.
Yeah.
I should have said it earlier, but when we were talking about the film with JL, we were discussing, was your stuff shot completely isolated, or were you like around the other kids, or how does it work?
They had the week off.
Got it.
I shot for, I think, 5 days, and all of the kids came and visited the set at one time or another. They were there, just kind of hanging around. You've got a big poster of Kiefer Sutherland here in the studio here. He ran the boom mic for the scene that I was in. Yeah, he was on the sound crew. I guess learning filmmaking during my scene.
Okay, so not only can you say that you were directed by Rob Reiner in a beloved film,
recorded by Kiefer Sutherland,
but the audio was recorded by
Yes.
Kiefer Sutherland? That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is so cool. What a fun fact.
Yeah, and and I didn't. I was
Of course, you're
nervous
14.
and I knew who he was, mainly because I knew his father. But I don't know, kind of timeline wise, what he would have already been in.
Sure.
But I knew that was Kiefer Sutherland holding the boom mic, and I remember as a 14-year-old child being like, "That's kind of cool."
Was part of you like, I'm probably going to have to hold the boom mic for one of Will Wheaton's scenes?
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
I would have loved that. Andy, we'd like you to stay on for the rest of the shoot as a member of the film crew.
As you can see, Kiefer's going to have to be acting in
Yes,
some of the film.
So he actually asked, he liked the noises that you made. He asked if you would record any sounds he makes.
That would be so great. He likes the noises you made.
Yes, exactly. He felt like you had a good back and forth going on.
Will you record his noises?
Yes,
Kiefer's?
I will.
I will, for sure.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing way to end it. Andy, again, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it so much.
You got it.
All right, thank you.